MuggleCast is brought to you by GoDaddy.com. GoDaddy hosting plans are now more powerful than ever. Best of all, plans start at just $3.95 a month. And no matter what plan you choose, your site receives 24/7 maintenance and protection in the GoDaddy.com world-class data center. Plus, as a MuggleCast listener, enter code MUGGLE, that's MUGGLE, when you check out, and save an additional 10% on any order. Get your piece of the internet at GoDaddy.com.
Hello, this is David Heyman, and I'm the producer of the Harry Potter films, and this is MuggleCast.
Because Dumbledore is just one reckless educator, this is MuggleCast, episode 211, for October the 17th, 2010.
Welcome, everyone, to MuggleCast episode 211. It's Micah, Jamie, Nick, and I this week. Two English accents on the show.
We're going to outrank you soon. We're going to take over this show.
Well, hopefully we can decipher the difference between your two voices.
You should be able to, Andrew. You should be able to. You should know what I sound like after all this time. 211 episodes.
I do, but it's still, you still both have that accent, and it still throws me off.
Wait, sorry. 211 episodes and some IRL time, as all the kids are saying now.
Oh, you mean in real life?
Yeah, and you don't even know. Oh, well, that's just charming. That is.
I do. It's just... I can kind of tell, Nick, no offense, but your voice is just a bit higher than Jamie's, so I can decipher that way.
That's because he's 2 years younger, though. Give him 2 years, and he'll probably be speaking like this.
I'm going to try that for the remainder of this episode.
Yeah, go on, see if you can pull it off.
Jamie, I don't have to do the show anymore, because you can do my voice, too.
Yeah, I'll do yours. There you go. It'll just be a one-man show. Andrew, you're going to have to find a new job.
Oh, no! Well, no, we need everyone for the show this week because there's lots of news to talk about, and of course we have chapter by chapter and a fun Dueling Club segment. So let's get to it. I'm Andrew Sims.
I'm Jamie Lawrence.
I'm Micah Tannenbaum.
And I'm Nick Myers.
Micah, we're just a month away from Deathly Hallows Part 1 now, so lots of news to talk about.
And it's come up so quickly.
I know, I was going to say, it's amazing that it's only 30 days away. It's just, seems like only yesterday Eric and Emerson were going to the theater to see the screening.
What actually was the story behind that? Because I read it, and it read to me like I was walking past a building, and suddenly someone came out and said, "Do you want to see the new Harry Potter film?" And I said yes, and I went in and saw it. To me, that just didn't sound real.
Well, it is very odd that, of course, it would be Emerson that got selected for this, but that's the truth. This is where they do these screenings, these test screenings in Chicago, and Emerson was already going to see a movie. And somebody there said, would you like to see a movie? They didn't say it was Harry Potter, but Emerson sort of guessed that it was Harry Potter since it was getting close to the release, and they always do the test screenings in Chicago for whatever reason.
Or did he just say that he guessed it after he saw it? Because then he'd sound cool.
No, he guessed beforehand. He had emailed me. He was like, I think it's going to happen tomorrow.
All right, cool.
Like, all right.
Nice.
Yeah, So what's going on in the news?
Well, Deathly Hallows finally got a rating here in the United States. The MPAA gave it a PG-13 rating. I don't think there's really too much of a surprise there.
It was a bit worrisome because with Half-Blood Prince, it was rated PG. So the question was, would they rate Part 1 PG-13? And they did. Well,
so, I mean,
it's not that big of a deal.
You start
it doesn't
killing
affect
people, I think you have to rate it PG-13. And Dumbledore's death, you know, like I said on the last episode, it kind of looked like he was just floating. You know, it
but don't you think
wasn't
that's
very
weird,
dramatic. What's that?
Don't you think it's weird that if you create a film and people die, you have to rate it PG-13, whereas in life, people die, so it's just a reflection of what happens in everyday life, yet you don't need a PG-13 rating to live.
Well, didn't you see a few years ago they decided to rate life PG-13?
Life?
Yeah, like life.
No. Oh,
life.
Like actual life. Oh, right. Yeah. I thought I was really clever there, and that had gone way over your head, but apparently it went way over my head instead.
Well, Jamie, that's an excellent point, though, because they didn't rate The Lion King PG-13.
No, and that was really sad, so.
That was sad.
Not to spoil the film for people.
Yeah. Well, you only said it was sad. Or like Up. I haven't seen Up, but quite a grown man in my office confided in me that he cried, so.
Confided? I have a deep secret to tell you. I cried during Up.
Did you? What, did you as well? Oh,
no,
you were paraphrasing
it. The beginning was very sad.
Our chemistry's gone, Andrew.
The problem with the MPAA is that it's a bunch of parents just rating the films. So I don't think I don't think there are many standards. It's sort of just like what they feel. There's a whole documentary on it called This Film Is Not Yet Rated, I think.
That's
and
weird. It
tries to track down the people in the MPAA, and they're like very secretive about it. It was a pretty interesting documentary.
That's pretty stupid.
Yeah, it's all over the place.
And the film hasn't been rated in the UK yet either, right? But
no,
we would expect that it would receive what, Nick? 12A, you said?
A 12A again, yeah.
That's the PG-13 equivalent here.
But Half-Blood Prince also got a 12A in the UK, which, like you said, Andrew, is a PG-13 equivalent, but it was rated PG here in the United States, so it seems like there's no consistency.
We have strict guidelines here, so if it has dark horror, threatening, and deaths and stuff, it will get the 12A rating, so... whereas in America, they just have the parents doing it.
How weird is that?
Over here for us.
Nick, can you imagine it if in the UK they said, "Oh, we're going to get the parents just to rate something"? There'd be
especially
uproar.
the Daily Mail readers.
The Daily Mail readers doing it, yeah. God, that would be insane. I can't believe. Oh, you just do things weird in America.
Yeah, we do. Well, the other big news about Deathly Hallows is that Part 1 will not be available in 3D. And WB released a statement a couple weeks ago saying that they weren't able to finish everything from a technical standpoint. And I think this is a good thing. I mean, why put a movie out that is not going to meet fan needs if it's not complete and it's going to look like crap?
It shows their commitment to quality.
Yeah, it does. And also, we don't want to have one more film where it's like, it's in 3D, and then you get there and the first 20 seconds are in 3D and the last 2 minutes are, and then you think, well, that's not really a 3D film, is it?
I have to admit, that was the way they marketed Half-Blood Prince 3D
it was all in 3D, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't say just the first 5-10 minutes. However, Part 1 was going to be, I'm pretty sure the plan for Part 1 and now Part 2 is that the entire film is 3D. Which you've seen in quite a few films recently. I mean, Avatar and pretty much every film now has also has a 3D version. But good on WB for deciding that the quality just wasn't there and they couldn't get it done in time.
But we wanted to read a couple of tweets that people sent along as to how they felt about this, the film not being available in 3D. So, Andrew, did you want to read some of them?
Yeah, the first one's from Kirpal Jutla. It says, bit disappointing that DH Part 1 isn't going to be in 3D, but at least they didn't move the movie back 6 months again for it. That's very true. Can you imagine, if it was their fault for the delay and then they decided to push it back? It's Lauren Yvonne says, I think it's great because I don't have the option to waste money to see if it's any good. We all know 3D is cool, but crap.
I think that's a great slogan. You see, Harry Potter coming soon in 3D. Cool, but crap.
Jessica Yeto says, I'm disappointed it's not in 3D. I was really looking forward to it, and I don't get why some people are so happy either. Sheena Beans, too, says, I was personally excited for the movie in 3D, but I was going to watch it in 2D. Their choice is just losing them money. Finally, Zoo here says, kinda happy about no 3D. When films are shot in 2D but are 3D-ized in post-production, 3D is subpar. See,
That's so true.
see Alice in Wonderland. What if part 2, they're not happy with part 2? I mean, now part 2 has to be really good because they're like, yeah, part 1, we did you guys a favor. We didn't show you it because it was so bad.
Yeah. Is there a potential, though, for them to re-release the movie in 3D sometime early next year?
Part 1 and put it in theaters as 3D part 1. I bet they would do that right before the release of part 2.
It'd make up the $30 million they've invested in it already, and it would build the hype up.
and actually, it would be really cool to see part 1 and part 2 back to back in a theater.
I'm sure they will do that. They're going to do that, aren't they? And then just run them together completely.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jamie, you mentioned earlier that there was a lot of promotional posters you saw when you were going to the movie theater, and I'm not sure that all of these were there in your theater, but there's been quite a few. I mean, have there been any that have stood out to anybody?
I have to say, like, this year I've thought they've been a bit poor. Like, the ones I've seen tend to just have HP 7 on a backdrop of Hogwarts, and that's about it. Like, perhaps my movie theater's just crap, but I don't know.
Well, the recent ones, MuggleNet was able to release 2 exclusively, which was really cool, and they were posters of Snape and Voldemort, and they have Hogwarts cast on the background. Those were nice. And then we've been getting these beautiful profile shots of all the main characters, and we got Dobby, Harry, Ron, Hermione,
nice,
Snape, Bellatrix, Greyback, a couple others too. And they're beautiful because they're close-up shots, and you can see every little pore on their face.
So proper HD, yeah.
You know, I was going to say the Dobby one, I don't think is good from a promotional standpoint though, because nobody knows who he is. I mean, the last film he was in was Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah,
he's been
that's
absent.
a fair point. Yeah, I guess they're just trying to cover all, all characters.
Yeah. I mean, it was like using Fenrir Greyback for Half-Blood Prince. Nobody knows who he is, so why are you promoting it? And I thought the Seven Potters one is terrible.
Yeah, I think that one leaked a little too early before it was complete. I don't think this is the finished product. We posted it on MuggleNet a couple days ago. It's a very wide banner showing the Seven Potters on one side. And
that's awful.
Yeah, it looks like it's from the video game.
The slogan, "We trust no one," did anyone else think that was really, really weak?
Bit cheesy as well, yeah. Trust no one.
It's so overused.
This one looks like my grandma photoshopped it. It's terrible.
I think I see her there, actually.
What? She wanted her 2 minutes of fame.
No, her finger actually came in front of the lens if you look in the bottom.
Yeah, I think it's just incomplete. I don't think you'll see that one in movie theaters.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Because you know how they usually have those really wide banners, and they're cool, but this one's just odd. So yeah, it's nice to see all the posters, and I'm sure soon you will see them all in the movie theater. Right now, I think the one that's in all theaters is the one of the Burning Castle.
Wait, just in that poster, have you seen how Voldemort's holding his wand? He's holding it between his top 2 fingers. That looks absolutely ridiculous. It's like a Roman centurion holding a sword and putting it between his knees. That's stupid.
It's not good. I have a feeling this is
terrible.
just not finished. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else is going on in the news?
Well, we talked a little bit about the video game when I said that poster looks like that's where it came from. But EA actually released a trailer earlier this week from the Part 1 video game. And Nick, I know you had a chance to actually go to EA and experience the game for yourself, but I think this game finally looks like the one we've been waiting for, just from the action itself.
Yeah, they've gone about their approach completely differently on this game. The content has allowed them to open up what they do with it, and they've built a whole new game engine to harness the high-definition consoles, cool. And there's now millions more pixels in the characters. They can really focus on getting things like the stubble on Harry's face to really shine through, and they've gone about it.
What about
it's much more action orientated. There are going to be tasks. I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say, but there's an element of when you're in the campsite, you've got to go around and collect bits to make potions to heal yourself or to protect the campsite, and apparently there's some sort of goblin merchant you'll be trading objects with, and there are them sort of tasks, but obviously there's not going to be the Hogwarts crest styles thing that we're used to.
Yeah. Cool.
But yeah, it's definitely shaping up to be a much better game, more action orientated. Yeah, it should be good. A lot of people are criticising the graphics.
I was just going to say, I think they look incredible in this trailer.
Yeah, I like them too. I think they look really good.
They look very lifelike. I mean, the emotion that you see on the faces, it's very well animated. And like Hermione's hairs and Bellatrix's hair, it's sort of, it moves naturally.
They've even gone and done, does anyone watch Lie to Me? It's a TV show and it's based on micro expressions, and there's something called the facial action coding system, which like picks up really minute details in the face. And they're now able to animate 20 different places on the character's face at once. So the level of detail on animation is now so good.
Yeah, it looks very.
And I've been the biggest critic too of these games in the past, and I think this one actually looks better than anything that's come before.
Oh, Micah, come on, you've learned this lesson before.
Well, look, when I get it and I play it, and if I don't like it, I'll retract my statement. I'll admit that I was wrong. But it looks better. There's more action. You get those shots, them fighting in the streets of London. They're fighting in the Ministry. They're running from the Snatchers in the forest. And they're facing all these creatures, which I guess they've added in, even though they have nothing to do with the storyline, like Harry running into a dragon in the middle of nowhere. But, it looks better. I mean, I think this is what people were expecting when they've gone out to buy the last two video games. But
we'll see.
We will see. Last show, we had recorded it just before J.K. Rowling's interview with Oprah Winfrey aired here in the United States, and I think we all got a chance to see it, or at least clips from it. And to me, it was a pretty standard interview. I mean, it was more focused on J.K. Rowling's life as opposed to Harry Potter, even though Harry Potter's been such a huge part of her life. And what I mean by that is there wasn't a lot of Oprah going into the canon. She didn't discuss the story itself. So I don't really think we got much new information on that front. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and I mean, this interview was tailored towards Oprah's audience. So like, Oprah couldn't start asking her like questions about Barty Crouch Jr. That would totally turn off Oprah's audience. So it was an okay interview. I think one of the more interesting things that Joe said was that she has at least 2 or 3 more Potter books in her head, and she would never say no to returning. So, and of course that made headlines everywhere. J.K. Rowling says it's possible she may write another Harry Potter book.
Well, it's a big change of stance as well, because a few years ago she said 7 and that's it, final, no more. She wouldn't even consider the possibility. At least now it's an option.
It's weird she's done a U-turn, though. She always said, like, it was always, like you say, Nick, it was just no more, no way, definitely not, It's kind of weird.
There was also a very awkward moment. I haven't seen the whole interview, admittedly. I haven't seen this part, where J.K. Rowling and Oprah are both talking about how rich they are. And everyone I've talked to said that it was so awkward.
Who's richer?
For the viewer.
Who is richer then? It's got to be Oprah. Easily. Oh, I thought so. Easily. J.K. Rowling's probably got like 1.5 billion. And Oprah's probably got like 4 billion. I don't know. Those are figures I just picked out of my head. But
it was such a funny clip though, because they're both trying to be really humble and say the money hasn't changed them and everything. And then they suddenly talk about how they can buy everything without thinking about
exactly.
it.
It's very awkward. But
oh, wow. Oh, sorry. Okay. What? By 2008, her yearly income had increased to 275 million. And
that's Joe or Oprah?
Oprah. And according to Forbes, in September 2010, she was worth over 2.7 billion.
Well, I wonder what Joe is. If she has this idea to write 2 or 3 more books, what place? Where do these take place in terms of the Harry Potter timeline? Is it after? Yeah, I mean, could they be prequels? Could they be stories like with Harry and Ron and Hermione as adults? Like, I wonder where in the scope of the timeline these would take place.
That'd be so hard.
I would hope it would be after, because there's so much she revealed in interviews after the final book went out that a lot of the fans don't see. And the characters still evolve in their head. I'd like to think she'd do it after.
Yeah, I would think the whatever she wrote would have to have the trio still feature, be the main event, so to speak.
Yeah. But just some other pieces from this interview. She mentioned that the books wouldn't be what they were if Joe's mother hadn't died. She said at least half of Harry's journey is dealing with death. It's there on every single page. If she hadn't died, I don't think it is too strong to say there wouldn't be Harry Potter.
Because say things like the Mirror of Erised is a perfect example of that, isn't it? Where she drew upon that real life experience to shape the book.
Yeah. And she actually mentioned that in the interview, didn't she? Or maybe it was another interview that she brought up the mirror. Or was it Oprah that brought up the mirror? And, then she also addressed people like Laura Mallory when she says, "I'm not pushing any belief system. The scene in Deathly Hallows was an allusion to a belief system I was raised on. I think if the evil makes it legitimate for parents to say that this is a little old for my child." So there she was just talking about, she's fully accepting of parents saying, look, the evil that's in these books is a little bit too mature at this point in time for my children. They don't have to read it, but using the whole religious argument, I think, she's not very fond of.
What else is going on in the news?
So the last bit of news is that there's this book coming out on the Harry Potter films next week on October the 19th called Harry Potter Film Wizardry. And Andrew, you and I have gotten a chance to look at this book, to review this book, and really it's something I think that a lot of Harry Potter fans will really enjoy because it gives you an in-depth look behind the scenes of the films in great detail.
Yeah, it's really well done because it has all these new pieces from primarily David Heyman and Stuart Craig about designing the films, and there's also a couple, actually quite a few new interviews with the cast. It's really full of detail. It's a very large book. I describe it as an encyclopedia of the films because they really cover every aspect of the films. Different sets, scenes, characters, actors. I mean, everything is covered in here. And also it's loaded with pictures and tons of short essays, so to speak, about different aspects of the films from the people who actually did them. So it's very legit. Very nice concept art.
Shame about the cover, though.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when everyone first saw this book, and this is what I thought, I was like, what the heck is this? It's just, the cover is just so basic that you don't expect that so much detail is going to be inside. But then when you hold it and open it up, you see that it's very large. It's got quite a few different props, so to speak, that you can take out of the book. Like there's a advanced potion making journal, and there's a Marauder's map. There's a proclamation, one of the Umbridge's educational decrees. So it's you say this about a lot of things, but it's the perfect Christmas gift. So the perfect holiday gift. So definitely check it out. It hits bookstores soon, just in time for the release.
I thought they did a really good job of hitting every character, like characters that you would think were obscure in the films, and they took the time to sit down with them and talk with them, and like you said, there's sort of these exclusive interviews, and also what they did with Deathly Hallows Part 1. I mean, they hit all those scenes that you would expect to see in the film. Godric's Hollow, they revisit the Ministry, the Lovegood House, all these things in such detail. You would think that maybe WB would have prevented them from including them. But the wedding is in here, and then they also give you a look at Part 2, and it's some pretty cool stuff. So I forget what it retails for. I think it's around $40, but through other places like Amazon, you can get it a little bit cheaper than that.
Yeah, it'll be marked down in bookstores too, I'm sure. So
sounds reasonable for what you're getting.
Yeah, actually, I think it's worth the $40. I mean, there really is a lot of stuff.
It's hardcover, and it's hundreds of pages easily. So
yeah,
you are getting value for it.
And endless hours of entertainment, just like MuggleCast. And this is free. So,
yeah, why did we ever do this for free?
I don't know. We should start charging. I think this is each episode's worth at least $40.
Yeah,
and that's absolutely when our listener count goes, ooh.
Just for fun, we should do an episode and charge for it and see how many people buy. No, I'm kidding. This has not gone to my head, I swear.
That is all the news.
Good. So let's get into chapter by chapter now. This week, we're looking at Goblet of Fire chapters 13 through 15. And we will start with chapter 13. Micah, lead us, please, through the Mad-Eye Moody chapter.
So, chapter 13 starts with all the lessons for Harry in his 4th year, and we get a pretty in-depth look at a couple of them. And the chapter starts off with the trio headed to herbology, and Professor Sprout has them collect bubotuber pus. Now, my question is, and this is going off the mandrakes from Chamber of Secrets, does Professor Sprout actually teach, or is she just running like an underground market of stuff?
I don't know. She does seem a bit odd, but
there can't be that much to teach either about plants, really. I mean, she probably just sits around watering them and.
You just offended a lot of plant
really cut that
majors.
out. I don't want gardener hate.
Well, no, I mean there's a I don't know the exact name of it, but there are people who study plants.
Yeah, it just seems like she's always doing something for somebody else. You know what I mean? It's so they need the mandrakes for this purpose, or they need this pus for another purpose, and it never actually seems like there's a lesson on something.
I think she's just a hands-off teacher, though. It's like if you're trying to teach a kid how to change a bike tire, you let them do it and you guide them and stuff. I think she's just one of those teachers who takes a back seat. I know what you mean, though. She doesn't. It's not like any of the other magical ones where they get stuck in and show everything. But maybe she's just different.
Yeah, maybe that's.
I actually could use some of this bubo tuber because I'm reading now that it acts as a treatment for severe acne. So I could definitely use that.
All right. Well, we'll get you some.
Thanks.
All right. All right. Well, the second class that Harry, Ron, and Hermione go to is Care of Magical Creatures. And Hagrid, of course, teaches this class, and he introduces them to blast-ended scroots. And what happens here is Draco asks a question. He's really rude with Hagrid initially, but then he rephrases it. And Hagrid's inability to teach here, I thought, really comes through. Because he has no idea why anybody would want a blast-ended scroot, no idea what to feed them, and doesn't really know a whole lot about their anatomy, yet he's willing to expose his students to them. So I'm sort of wondering, is this a bad hire on Dumbledore's part? We know Hagrid's affinity for dangerous creatures, but, he doesn't even know the important information about these things. He just kind of brought them to class.
I have a feeling there's going to be a certain theme with this whole chapter by chapter segment about how good Dumbledore is at managing a school, because in chapter 14 and 15, we also question the purpose of teaching the young students unforgivable curses. But isn't this sort of like the Sprout argument that you were making? Like, they're not actually learning anything, they're just sort of doing?
No. Sprout, I think, is knowledgeable, and she knows what she's teaching. She just has a weird method of doing it, whereas I don't think Hagrid is very knowledgeable.
Yeah, for Hagrid, it's just a hobby. He's learning whilst he's doing it, and he's then got to try to teach that to the kids at the same time.
And we've said this before, that the professors are a bunch of misfits at this school. They really are.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking about Hagrid or, the Defense Against the Dark Art teacher, whomever that is, or Trelawney, it doesn't seem like there are a lot of established teachers that are there other than maybe McGonagall. I mean, even Snape is a former Death Eater.
Well, Dumbledore, obviously Dumbledore and Hagrid have a really good relationship. Dumbledore trusts Hagrid, and Hagrid obviously does a really good job at taking care of the creatures. So, I think Dumbledore trusts that he knows something. And then again, what is the point of learning about these blast-ended scroots? I mean, I guess in school you do learn a lot you learn about quite a few things that you don't really need to know, but maybe Hagrid just had other things on his mind.
I guess also things like he's trying to teach the curriculum given by the ministry or whatever, and they're not the sort of animals that excite Hagrid and the things he knows about. It's not the dragons he's got to teach, it's these blast-ended shrews. So I think it's not necessarily his forte in the magical creature topic, if you will. That makes sense. It doesn't, does it?
Yeah, it does. And we'll get to another teacher in a couple of minutes here. But, during this chapter, Hermione sneaks off to the library several times. So I just thought that was important to note. We come to learn that, eventually learn that she's off planning spew. And,
it's not spew, it's SPEW.
I'm sorry there, Hermione. I'll remember to say that from now on. But
thank you.
Wow,
why the role reversal though? I mean, Ron, takes a couple of digs at her. He says, well, now all of a sudden you're stuffing your face. You obviously got hungry. That's the reason why you're willing to eat the food that the house elves are preparing. So, why go back on your promise? Aren't there other ways to get food?
Well, she's not going to starve to death.
I think she was just hungry.
I don't think there's other ways.
It's one of those things, you get principled, but, everyone's got principles, and some people think they have to follow them all the time, or they're failing, and some think, well, there's degrees of principality, or whatever the word is. She helps house elves more than other people do, but she can't, I guess, starve herself, like you say. Dunno.
It's sort of like when you are against trees being cut down, but then you go and buy paper because, it's going to be printed anyway. It's not like I'm stopping it.
Yeah.
So that, that's at least what I think. It's probably horrible, but they're making the food anyway. It's going to be there whether Hermione rebels or not.
Andrew. That's
sure.
A terrible argument.
No. Well, and so is what Hermione's doing. She's all for it, but she's still eating the food, so.
Maybe.
Yep. Well, we'll see what happens later on, but now they go off to double divination with Trelawney, and during the class, of course, Trelawney, whenever Harry's around, predicts his imminent doom, and she tells him, "I fear the thing you dread will indeed come to pass, and perhaps sooner than you think." Now, I'm wondering what this is, because usually her predictions are pretty accurate, right?
She dreads Voldemort coming back. He dreads Voldemort coming back. And it's coming pretty soon.
Sure. All right. Well, also during this class, as we all know, Lavender Brown really likes Professor Trelawney and is a bit of a show-off in the class, and, she thinks that she has found some unnamed planet, I believe it was, and Professor Trelawney comes over and says, "No, dear, that's Uranus." And then Ron says, "Can I have a look at Uranus too, Lavender?"
That is classic, isn't it?
And I thought this is the first real mature sort of joke that's in the series.
Yeah. But at the same time, this is totally the joke everyone said in high school, too, or middle school.
Yeah.
Or still now.
Uranus.
Yeah. Exactly. So, it's nice to see that there's a little bit of dirty humor in the Potter series. But
oh yeah, it's very nice.
Well,
what are you saying about yourself, Micah?
That I like dirty humor.
I'm happy to see this dirty humor.
I like dirty humor. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, we move on, and the trio are coming out of the Great Hall, and they run into Draco Malfoy, who's bragging about the fact that Ron's dad is in the Daily Prophet again. And, of course, it's written by Rita Skeeter, and they get into a little bit of a fight, and it goes something like this. Draco insults Arthur and Molly. Harry insults Narcissa. Draco tries to curse Harry, and then Mad-Eye Moody makes an appearance and turns Draco into a ferret. And this scene is completely taken out of context in the movie because it doesn't occur in the Great Hall. It's actually after Ron and Harry get into a fight, so Ron is not even there. It's outside.
It's outside as well, isn't it? It doesn't work really.
But it was still really funny. And the look on Moody's face in the film was hilarious, I think, because he's controlling him. And actually, besides it being out of context in a different scene, it was pretty loyal. It was pretty accurate. How Moody was throwing him around and how McGonagall steps in and freaks out.
Yeah, the lines are actually the same, too. And, didn't Dumbledore tell you about this? And he says, maybe, or whatever it was. So, I'm wondering, do you think Mad-Eye overheard this conversation and maybe he felt the need to step in and protect Ron because his father did come to his aid? And I know this is Barty Crouch Jr., but maybe Barty Crouch is thinking, Arthur came over to investigate for me. I need to sort of act as if, I'm doing something good on behalf of his son, or do you just think it was a matter of chance that Moody was there?
I thought he was just trying to win over support and get closer to Harry and Ron.
I think that's completely true, Nick. Yeah, he's just trying to, Joe kind of perhaps tries to make you think that it's because his dad, helped him out. But yeah, it's just to try and build his trust and get him to trust him so in the future he can screw him over, as it were.
Yeah. Now, I'm also wondering, though, is Mad-Eye / Barty Crouch Jr. so willing to do this to Draco because he really doesn't like Lucius Malfoy. Moody tells Draco to tell his father that he will be keeping an eye on his son. Obviously Barty Crouch is not Lucius Malfoy's biggest fan because he feels that Lucius betrayed, Voldemort. So is there a little bit of that in this too?
Perhaps. I mean, that is a fair point as well. Like, it's always nice when there are several reasons for a character doing something. And I guess when there are several reasons, you can't be sure which one is true. But I think, as such a dedicated Death Eater, he probably will feel quite strongly about that. So I can imagine that perhaps is part true, or he got an extra kick out of it maybe because of that.
But then, Moody starts talking about who Draco's head of house is, and he refers to Snape as saying, he needs to sit down and have a conversation with another old friend. Now, another here is interesting because the only person he's mentioned prior to this point is Lucius Malfoy. So I was wondering if this was a clue that Moody wasn't necessarily who he appeared to be.
That's a fair point as well, yeah. I guess if you read that closely, you'd be, what was the first friend? And why is he friends with him? And, but I think you probably just assumed because he was an Auror and Lucius Malfoy was a Death Eater, he was, he was trying to catch him, but I guess, yeah, you were wrong to think that, and really he was in league with them. It's quite interesting, really, yeah. It's good writing.
Yeah, it's almost like, is it a sarcastic
or is it
old
true?
friend?
Yeah,
Like, even though...
It's clever, yeah, very clever.
So
it's a double meaning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
Hopefully we'll see more of these too as we read along. Yep. Now knowing the truth.
And so Harry and Ron are really excited, obviously, about the way that Moody has treated Draco, and so they're looking forward to his upcoming class, but Ron's a bit upset because they have to wait a couple days in order to have Moody as a teacher, but that wraps up that chapter.
All right. Next is Chapter 14, The Unforgiveable Curses. So we learn right off the top of the chapter that Snape is acting abnormally spiteful towards Moody. And what is the reason for that, Mike? I couldn't figure it out.
Why does he not like Moody? Well,
yeah, more than other Defense Against the Dark Arts
I would say
teachers.
that he has the Defense Against the Dark Arts job, but the
way Joe was writing it was that there was something even more. And I don't know what that is. I mean, unless Snape just had a bad feeling about Moody, and that was it.
Well, at this point, I don't think he has any idea who Mad-Eye Moody is. He doesn't believe him to be Barty Crouch Jr. in any way, so maybe he just doesn't like the idea of an Auror potentially breathing down his neck. Keeping an eye on him, maybe he doesn't trust him.
Well, in the previous chapter, the Weasley twins tell Ron that Moody is like no other teacher because he's experienced the dark arts. And this is proven when Moody teaches the trio about unforgivable curses for the first time. And for the first lesson. I mean, he just basically jumps right into it, as he says. He's just like, let's go, let's do this. Moody mentions he only has 1 year with the students. And Ron asks why he's only there for a year. And Moody says this year of teaching is just a special favor to Dumbledore. And that's interesting. I guess Moody and Dumbledore sort of just had this agreement, sort of in the style that Slughorn and Dumbledore do in Half-Blood Prince, where Slughorn just says 1 year, or I don't know if he says 1 year, but Dumbledore, has to work to convince him. If Dumbledore is aware of this, had he already been thinking about a new DADA teacher to replace him? Or did he just assume that Moody, after he came back, he would realize what he's missing and then he would stick around longer?
Optimistic and trusting Dumbledore, so I think it's kind of like when he tried to get Slughorn in, and and he was like, "Well, trust me, Harry. He'll come back and stuff." I
guess Dumbledore's aware of the cursed role as well, so he's probably already looking for next year and assuming he isn't coming back.
He's like, I know you're not gonna survive 1 year anyway. So
it could be a number of things, really.
I don't know. As headmaster, I'd be working to somehow break that curse, but maybe with Voldemort around, that isn't high up on the priorities list. So, getting back to the class that the trio are in, Moody mentions that despite the Ministry's thinking, Dumbledore and Moody believe students should not have to wait until their sixth year to learn about unforgivable curses. Do you guys agree with this? It's comparable to learning about major issues in the real world. Like, I mean, you don't really learn about this in classes in at least American schools, but, murdering and torture, this is basically what it's comparable to. And the students here are what? 14, 15, maybe 16? So should they be learning about unforgivable curses in their fourth year?
And more importantly, why would he teach them this? Because he's just given Harry the ammo later on to use. We know he tries the spells, he's not very successful at them, but like the Crucio. Why would he teach them these things that will later be used against him and Voldemort and the Death Eaters? It's crazy.
I agree. Well, it's one of those questions that's age-old, isn't it? And it's sort of, well, should people know about the world they live in, or should they live in a bubble, or how much should children be aware of, and how much, can you trust children to handle those issues, in the right way? And she's good at bringing ethical considerations into the books, and this is one of those things. And I mean, they seem to handle it pretty well. Like, you have the Fred and Georges who say, "Oh, that was cool." Neville obviously is pretty upset by it, and that's because of personal, circumstance. And I think that's a good point that she's making. Like, you can say you can do something and it could affect, very few people, but it still affects a few people. So, I mean, it's hard to know where she stands on it, really. From that scene, it's quite hard.
I think there's a difference, though, because most of these students, they know about the curses. It's just actually seeing them applied to something. So I think there's a huge difference there. They know the names of the curses. Moody goes around to the class and he asks, what are the names of the unforgivable curses? And there's a difference between knowing them and actually performing them. And I think to perform them in front of these students, though, do they really need to see that? I mean, if you read in a book, this is what the Imperius Curse does, this is what the Cruciatus Curse does, this is what the Killing Curse does, I think you have a pretty good idea. You don't need to see it necessarily in front of you.
No, I think that's true, yeah. But, I mean, I can't think of a real-world example, but yeah, it's kind of like them. I guess it's, but you could argue that it's them showing them how it's done so they don't go and see it in a bad way, like with friends. And I know that he said, well, you aren't powerful enough to create Avada Kedavra and the other curses, but it's kind of like showing them in the most, the best way possible so that they don't hurt themselves trying to find out something that interests them. I don't know. It can go both ways.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in Dumbledore and Mad Eye's defense, as you guys brought up, they can't conduct these spells themselves. Yeah. They're just not powerful enough yet. So, in that regard, and it is better that they're learning about it in an educational environment first, rather than, seeing it firsthand. So, because if they see it firsthand, they don't really know what's going on.
But wait, are you saying that
if they are out in the street and they just happen to run into somebody doing a Crucio on somebody, they don't know exactly that it's an unforgivable curse, what it actually does.
I guess so. I mean, I could go into his lesson and come out and think the world's completely out to get me. Like, he seems to impart that on people, which is probably not. Perhaps he doesn't go about it the right way, saying you need to know these things because people are going to attack you and you will need to know what to do. Perhaps a better way would be, we're showing you this so you don't do it yourself, and these are really deadly, and some people may do it. I don't know. Again, it's a character, so it's It's he would do that, so it's that's how he would act. So
well,
I guess you can't really say it's wrong.
Like we mentioned, they watch Moody do these spells do these curses on spiders, and it's a bit unsettling, and it makes everyone feel kind of nervous in the classroom. After the lesson, the trio find Neville shaken by what Moody had said and performed, and when approaching Neville about it. When the trio approach Neville about it, Moody walks up and offers Neville some tea at his office. And while we don't know at the time, presumably Moody's talking to Neville. Do you guys think Moody talked to Neville about how his parents were tortured? And of course, this is Barty Crouch Jr., so the one who tortured his parents. So, I mean, Lord knows what the heck went on up in that office.
I'd imagine he was getting some kick out of telling him.
Yeah, enjoying hearing the son talk about.
Yeah. And
this is the point at which Moody, which we'll find out later on, plants the clue on Neville for the second task about the
Jillyweed.
The Jillyweed.
Now, isn't it different in the movie too? Because I don't think it's the same in the book. I don't think that Neville is the one who mentions the Cruciatus Curse, is he?
Yeah, no, he does. He does, because Moody's... Oh, wait, you're talking about the book or the film?
The film he does, because I think they do it in the film to set up that plot point, but I don't think he does.
No, he does in the book as well.
Does he?
He puts his arm up and he's really nervous, and Moody asks him to repeat it, and he goes, "Your name's Neville, isn't it?"
Yeah.
And his hands go all white, and that's when Hermione tells him to stop doing it on that spider.
Yeah, I think you're right. So then Harry spots Fred and George writing something together. This is later in the night in the common room, and they're looking suspicious in the corner. The only hint of what's going on is when he overhears George say, "No, that sounds like we're accusing him. Got to be careful." So we'll learn about that later on. Then Hermione comes in the common room and introduces her brand new campaign, SPEW. This is what Hermione has been working on in the library, like Micah said earlier. And she, quote, "can't believe no one's done anything about it before now." And Hermione gets kind of bossy here, and she hires Ron and Harry as treasurer and secretary, respectively, without even really asking them. And there's not too much SPEW talk here, or SPEW talk here, because then all of a sudden, Hedwig shows up with the letter from Sirius, and Sirius says he's coming back immediately because Harry's visions are in line with the rumors he had been hearing. He doesn't say where or when he'll arrive. He just says he's coming back north. And this angers Harry because he doesn't want Sirius to get caught by the Dementors, because then it would really be all his fault that he was caught again. And this leads us into Chapter 15. Micah, could you kick us off, and we'll go back and forth on this?
Sure. So, still feeling guilty about Sirius's decision to come back, Harry writes a letter to him saying that everything is fine and he only imagined that his scar was hurting. And Casper tweeted in, "Isn't Harry a bit naive when he tries to stop Sirius from coming? I reckon I just imagined my scar hurting. I was half asleep," is the quote.
I think it's more than naive. I think it's reckless. He's, if he'd believed him, which he didn't, then the entire book could have gone a completely different way. It's really stupid of him to do stuff like that. I know he doesn't like to think that people... that he's causing issues with people, or, he's making people do things because of him rather than because they want to, but it is a stupid thing to do. But it is him, I guess, Sirius sees it in James, and that's why he knows straight away, but... Yeah, and as when Sirius replies back to Harry's letter saying, "Oh no, I was just imagining it," did Harry really think... Like Casper said, it was Sirius really going to be like, "Oh, okay, fine, never mind, peace out"? I mean, Sirius is bored too. It's not like he has anything else going on, so he gets excited, I think, in a weird way, to know that he has something to.
It's like another adventure with James, almost.
Yeah,
exactly, and that's why he likes it. Yeah.
So a few weeks later, we're back in Moody's class, and in taking this curse stuff a step further, he gets permission from Dumbledore to put the Imperious Curse on each of them so they know what it feels like. And this is where Dumbledore's decisions, the decisions he makes, come into question. how can this be okay? I mean, this is one of the unforgivable curses. And granted, Moody's not making them do anything inappropriate or making them kill themselves, but I just think this is so bizarre that this would be allowed. And Moody makes him dance around, but shouldn't the parents have to agree?
Yes.
Agree to this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you knew that this type of teaching was going on at school, I mean, first of all, the fact that they taught the unforgivable curses is one thing. Now they're performing them on the students. It's,
I know, yeah.
It's stretching it a bit. It's almost like when you have something comparable happen in public school here where the parents don't agree, whether it's a book being taught or, a particular subject being brought up, it causes all this controversy. I would imagine it would cause a tremendous amount of controversy.
Especially because they need to have a signed form to go into Hogsmeade when it's just a cute
exactly.
village, and they don't need a form for that.
You need one for a field trip.
The fact Harry's in the class is making him lose his judgment and do things he wouldn't normally do.
I mean, I guess the Imperious Curse is a really weird one because I don't really see how you can have a curse in the world where you can just, I mean, like, for an example, it would like completely mess up the law about rape for a start. Like, it would be impossible to like quantify anything in that world legally with the Imperious Curse. I mean, they say that. They say, it was impossible when Voldemort was around. Everyone was under the Imperious Curse. I don't know. It's just everyone could be under it. You wouldn't ever know who was acting of their own accord. And if, then the use of it is enough to get a life sentence in Azkaban, but no one's going to know they've been under it, or it's kind of weird, really.
Yeah. And I think, the only thing that this is here to do is to set up the fact that Harry can, resist the Imperious Curse.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, definitely.
So, and
wild.
What's that?
Wild. Go ahead.
Wild.
But I think that's kind of the next point, though, isn't it? That, Harry says that he actually enjoys the sensation, but then realizes he can fight back. So he tries to fight it off completely, but is ultimately unsuccessful. And then somebody tweeted in Paul94UK, in Chapter 15, Harry resists the Imperious Curse, so do you think he could resist all of the unforgivable curses?
Well, he did resist Avada Kedavra. We wouldn't have a book if he hadn't done that.
But doesn't... Voldemort performs that on him at the end of this book, doesn't he?
Yeah, and it hurts like hell, so...
Yeah.
I guess not.
Well, 2 for 3 isn't too bad. It's more than anyone else could say.
Yeah, that's not bad at all, really.
If I'm not mistaken, doesn't he also use the Imperious Curse on him at some point in the series?
Yeah, he makes him... Oh, no, he makes him bow. Oh, no, doesn't, because it says Harry felt that familiar... feeling.
Was it Deathly Hallows that they used the Imperious Curse on?
No, Micah, it's in Goblet of Fire at the end when he's like bow, and then he's like I won't, and then Voldemort's like, oh, you won't, will you? I value bravery or whatever, something like that. I can't believe I still remember that. I haven't read that book in ages, but yeah, I think it's then. Here, Andrew, I've got a question for you. Which do you think hurts more, the Cruciatus Curse or in Twilight when that Volturi vampire says pain?
That's a good question. I mean, they both seem to have equal effects. But because I will be flamed if I give the wrong answer here, I will say that the Harry Potter one is much worse. Yeah. Because, J.K. Rowling's clearly a better writer.
That's the right answer. Well done. Full marks to you.
Jamie, I can't believe you've read Twilight. You may want to come on my other pod. Oh, sure.
I would if you invited me.
Oh, we will have to talk about that. But the way Joe described Harry realizing he can control the curse actually makes it sound really easy. It seems to come really easy to Harry because he just has this little voice in the back of his head that says, "Oh, wait, hold on. I can stop this. I can get in control of this decision making that's going on right now." So it was interesting that Joe described it as kind of being easy to take over. And yet, it's not easy for everyone. So, I guess it takes over your mind, too, to the point where you can't even think that you can control it. So, I don't know. The writing there was pretty interesting.
What do you think about the other tweet?
Yeah, we got this other tweet from Protagonist Dev. I never understood how the Imperious Curse worked. Does the one who conjures have to be there near the victim, like a puppet? Do we see Moody actually say the spell?
Or does he do it silent? No, I
don't think so.
I think he does for dramatic effect, doesn't he? Because when he says...
Silently?
No. Out loud, because when he says Avada Kedavra, there's like Harry feels a thrill of foreboding. And like, and like a rush of power and stuff. I think he does, because it's like, it's easily exclamation markable and people like it, and I don't know. Perhaps he does once, but he doesn't the other time or something.
Well, and that may answer that question. I mean, if you have to say it out, I imagine you have to be looking at the person to take over them. I can't imagine that they can be like, in a different part of the school.
Well, I mean, you have to remember that Barty Crouch Sr. is under the Imperious Curse for this entire book, pretty much, from Peter Pettigrew and Barty Crouch. Well, obviously Barty Crouch Jr. is left, so Peter Pettigrew is the one putting the Imperious Curse on him. So, how close does Peter Pettigrew have to be to Barty Crouch Sr.? Is he, like, living in the basement or something? I really don't remember, to be honest.
I'd always imagined the wand would have to point at the person. You'd have to be within the vicinity to cast a spell on them, and then once they're under the Imperious Curse, you don't need to be around them.
Anyway.
I'm looking at the book now. It says Moody raised his wand, pointed it at Harry, and said Imperio. So yes, you say it out loud, and yes, you have to point at the person.
But how long does it last?
I think they said you have to top it up, don't you? You can't just leave it, and it doesn't last forever.
Yeah, because they'll naturally resist it over time.
Yeah, I mean, Moody keeps saying, jump on the desk, jump now. And maybe that's because Harry's resisting it, but maybe that's what you have to do to kind of keep it going. You have to keep saying things, giving commands, Okay, so moving along, the students learn that the Beauxbaton and Durmstrang students will be arriving in just a matter of days. And Fred and George, meanwhile, Fred and George confront Hermione about her SPW campaign and insist that the house elves are happy where they are. But still, Hermione has none of this. Harry, a little bit later in the chapter, Harry gets a letter back from Sirius, who knows that Harry is lying about the scar pain being from his imagination, as we mentioned earlier. And Sirius says, don't worry, Harry, I'm well hidden, I'm not going to get caught. So then, at the end of the chapter, the Beauxbaton and Durmstrang students arrive. We meet Madame Maxine and her students with the arrival of their huge carriage, and she's adamant about her horses being well taken care of, but Dumbledore assures her that her future love interest, of course being Hagrid, will take care of them just fine, despite not even being able to handle blast-ended screws.
Giant horses next.
And then the Durmstrang students show up with their giant chip, and Ron quickly notices that his idol, Crumb, is in the group.
Wow.
So exciting.
I was going to say, that's probably a lot to clean up if those horses are that big.
It would take forever, wouldn't it?
I think there's actually a part later on in the book, like Hagrid is cleaning out the... Never mind, but...
we'll know later. So that's it for chapter by chapter. Next episode, we will look at chapters 16 through 18. So look forward to that. Let's get to some Muggle mail now. Nick, could you read the first email from Charlotte?
Sure, this is from Charlotte. She's 24 and from Knoxville. And she writes, I was just listening to episode 210 and I noticed a couple of mistakes. When Micah was talking about the latest Deathly Hallows news, he said Scabia was a new character not mentioned in the book. Scabia was mentioned in Deathly Hallows, starting on page 448 of the US hardcover edition as one of the snatches. During your chapter-by-chapter discussion, you were talking about how the dustbins that were set off in Moody's yard seemed too simple for someone like him. Barty Crouch Jr. was the one who set off the dustbins. And she quotes, I made the dustbins move about the yard. I told Arthur Weasley I had heard intruders in my yard, who had set off the dustbins. I think Crouch set them off in order to make it look like more of a struggle. I love the show and think you guys do an awesome job, Charlotte.
Other than your screw-ups.
Yeah, exactly. No, I thought that Scabier was the one who was made up for this. Wasn't there a Death Eater that was made up specifically for this film? Or am I making that up?
Well, we'd probably have to look into that. I don't know.
Yeah, well, okay. Apparently he was in the book. I apologize. And the Dustman thing is probably my fault, too. So, 0 for 2 so far.
Micah, as your punishment, read the next email.
Bad boy.
You bad boy.
The next email comes from Christina, 22, of Sweden. And she says, Hi, MuggleCasters. My friend and I really had to laugh about your discussion on whether J.K. Rowling still rides a bus. I always thought it was a nasty and untrue cliche that Americans drive absolutely everywhere by car, and I was surprised to hear that you really find the idea strange that someone who can afford a driver would go by bus. I'm from Sweden, so I can't really judge the situation in the UK, but where I live, it's quite common for politicians and celebrities to go by train, bus, or bicycle, and I guess it's the same in most parts of Europe. Also, I think Jo would want her children to grow up as normally as possible, and in most parts of the world, that includes using public transportation. This is the first time I'm writing to you, but I've been a fan for many years. Thank you for never failing to make me laugh, even if this time it was unintentional. Lots of love, Christina.
We did get Joe's answer. This got brought up last episode when a commercial for Oprah had Oprah asking Joe the question, is it true you still ride the bus? And it cuts to Joe and she does this little shudder, but she doesn't answer because it's a teaser. So Joe ended up saying that she wrote it, I think, as recently as a year ago. So, all right, I stand corrected. Now I sound like an idiot that just believes Joe's too good to take a bus, but turns out that she still does. And, good for her. Buses are nice. That's how
well, I mean, here Mayor Bloomberg goes by subway to work every day, and he's a billionaire. I mean,
oh, really?
I guess people do use public transportation that are celebrities. I don't think we were discounting that every celebrity has a driver that takes them somewhere, but
I was.
You were?
Next email comes from Seth, 19, of New Jersey, my home state. Hey, MuggleCast, in your recent episode, 210, Micah had mentioned that Rita Skeeter... Oh, is this you making a mistake again? Micah had mentioned that Rita Skeeter had found out about Bertha Jorkins' disappearance because, quote, it's just one of those examples of the press getting hold of information that they shouldn't have, end quote. I do agree with this comment, but it's also probably because Rita is an animagus and was probably snooping around. So, Micah, you weren't wrong here. It was just a little extra
observation. We're not that far in the book yet, though.
Right. When we do these, I guess it's probably important to make clear, when we do these chapter by chapter segments, we try to take it from the standpoint as if we haven't read ahead, because otherwise some of these things aren't really worth discussing. So we take it from the information we know so far in the book, in the previous books.
Yeah, if it's necessary to make the point that something happens later on, or, we'll do that. But, sometimes when you're quoting from further along in the book or further along in the series, it kind of takes away from what we're doing with the chapter by chapter.
Micah, or Jamie, could you read the final email from Kyle?
Yeah, Kyle, 18, from London. Nice place. Hey, MuggleCasters. My email this week relates to the comment on episode 210 about the fact that why did Durmstrang have no involvement in the final battle? Do you think that the students and teachers at Hogwarts would have trusted having them join in and fight? I mean, from all that we have learnt about them throughout the books, it would have been a big risk. They don't let Muggleborns into their school. Their headmaster was a Death Eater. It's notorious for teaching the dark arts and was the school that taught Dark Wizard Grindelwald. Wouldn't it be more likely that they would join Voldemort's side than defend Hogwarts? Anyway, just my thoughts. You guys are great, and I've been an avid listener since about episode 70, keeping me up to date with all things Potter, which I can't thank enough. Kyle. Thanks, Kyle.
That's about the time that Nick sounded like Jamie, or Jamie sounded like Nick.
When? Episode 210?
Episode 70.
Voice-wise, yeah.
That should give the transcribers some difficulties.
Yeah. Well, I mean, isn't that...
Sorry, guys.
Isn't that pigeonholing Durmstrang a bit? Like, saying that all of them would join up with Voldemort's side, and Karkaroff is dead at this point, so just because...
It probably is true that you wouldn't be sure, you might ask them to join in, but then there'll probably be a few of them that don't agree with fighting Voldemort, and I guess a few of them, if they're insiders, could cause a lot of damage.
Well, they can sit out.
it's not like
They
an
don't have to
American football
participate.
game where there's a bench.
Yeah, they're gonna substitute
Yeah.
Durmstrang in for this play, but I mean, I don't know. Like, you would think that some of them that had come to Hogwarts to spend this year here would have come to fight against Voldemort. I mean, just because Karkaroff led their school doesn't mean that they're all bad. I mean, I know Draco says earlier in the series that he thought about going to Durmstrang because of the dark arts, but
but how long would it take for them to get there? And
they'd apparate.
But they couldn't into the. I mean, I guess they could right outside of the school, but they couldn't into the school.
I think it would have been more effective though if they came the same way that they did in this book. You know, the battle's going on, and all of a sudden, like, you know, that scene where you have the Hogsmeade villagers coming.
Yeah, I was thinking that, Andrew. I was thinking that.
Yeah, the
it's
ship
very
comes
Pirates
up.
of the Caribbean-ish.
Yeah, the ship comes up and the carriage comes in from the sky. You know, that would have been, it would make a great movie scene too.
No, you see, I was going to say, like in Lord of the Rings, when Aragorn runs forward and then the ghost army comes out behind him. That would be so cool if it was like that.
Instead, you got wimpy Hogsmeade villagers that are running with like pots and pans.
Yeah.
But they're close by. And when you consider how detailed, how many people actually showed up for the final battle, it's almost sort of like, well, if Joe wrote them in, would it take up too much extra time? Because they would probably need a little introduction again. I don't know. I think there may have been some technical difficulties adding them in. And you can't have everyone. I mean, that's a good, that would be a good question for Joe.
I do see what you mean, Micah, because like, for the final battle, you know, it's like, you know, the fight for the whole of the wizarding world, and it takes place at a school. It's you know, you think it would take place in the capital, like with spectators and everyone, you know, joining the fight. Like, it is a bit sort of, I mean, you know, if the good people lose, surely Voldemort will reign supreme over the entire country. Although perhaps he won't, because you'll still have people fighting the fight from the Order of the Phoenix. So, I mean, what is the final battle for? Is it merely for Harry's life, when you consider it? Or is it for control of the whole wizarding world? With Dumbledore gone, it's quite, you know, unless Harry kills Voldemort, he's pretty much going to take over, isn't he?
Yeah.
I would say.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So now, as we promised at the top of the show, it's time for a Dueling Club segment. We haven't done this in a very long time. This is Famous Witches and Wizards, and how we play this, if I remember correctly, is we take two people. In this case, the theme this week is Famous Witches and Wizards, and we figure out who would win.
That's right.
Actually, the last time we did this was the interview with David Heyman.
That's
Mike
right.
and Eric, you two did this with him.
Yeah, David Heyman got the upper hand on me, I will say.
I hear now that
Did
he
he
plays
like it?
this with the...
Yeah, he did, actually.
Really cool. That's cool.
Yeah, you should listen to it. It was pretty funny. He's like, are you conceding defeat already, Micah? When Micah just gives up. It was funny. I hear that he plays this with the crew now. When they're
nice.
working together.
I hope he credits us.
Hey guys, I heard this great thing on MuggleCast. You want to play?
Well, Andrew, I read a story. I don't know if it's true or not, that Emma Watson was in one of her classes at Brown, and the teacher asked a question, and she answered it correctly. Then someone at the back said 10 points to Gryffindor.
I feel like I heard that somewhere too. That would be so hilarious.
First up, Dumbledore versus Merlin. Andrew, you take Dumbledore. Jamie, you take Merlin. Andrew, you go first.
Dumbledore is clearly the greatest wizard of all time. There's no question about this. If you ask anyone on the street who's going to win, Dumbledore or Merlin, more people will say Dumbledore just because they know him better. I mean, this is someone who's been fighting Voldemort all his life. What did Merlin do? Who did he fight? He didn't fight anyone. He didn't have to take down anyone. Did Merlin sacrifice himself for the greater good? I don't think so.
Alright, I think actually Andrew's completely wrong. And if you ask most people in the street, name a famous wizard, I think more would say Merlin after Gandalf than would say Dumbledore. I also think that if you consider that Dumbledore has the Deathly Hallows as the biggest legends surrounding him, and you think, well, that's quite a big legend, but it's only involved in Harry Potter thing, whereas Merlin was involved in the search for the Holy Grail, and everyone's heard of the Holy Grail, and if you entrust someone to that kind of task, they've got to be pretty damn powerful. And I think Merlin's probably got access to different types of wizardry, whereas Dumbledore is more of a Harry Potter, book thing only, whereas I think Merlin comes in different guises, and he's probably had more experience than Dumbledore. I think he's probably older than Dumbledore as well, and, age is wiseness and blah, blah, blah. So I think Merlin would cane Dumbledore.
Well, I would just like to add this fact to it. I mean, isn't Dumbledore like Order of Merlin First Class? I mean, there's no Order of Dumbledore.
Darn it.
That's a great. That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. If I wish I just said that. I'd just been like, Andrew, what's the order of that Dumbledore's got? And he said Merlin, and I said, I rest my case.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not better. I mean, to be fair, Merlin and Dumbledore never had a duel, so we don't know for sure. Just because, I mean, the only reason Merlin has this Order of Merlin award thing going on is because he existed first.
Or because he's richly powerful and really cool and, kills wizards for show and could kill Dumbledore with his little finger. Maybe.
All right, let's take one more then.
All right.
Micah and Nick. Ravenclaw. Well, who won that, by the way? I guess Jamie did with the Merlin.
No,
thing.
don't put yourself down.
Well, I can't go. The Order of Merlin thing was.
That was an awesome point. That was a great point.
All right, Nick and Micah. Micah, I will assign you Ravenclaw. Rowena Ravenclaw, right? We're doing that. And Nick, you will have Salazar Slytherin. Nick, you go first. Why would Salazar defeat Rowena?
Salazar Slytherin would kill Rowena big style because he's more powerful. He has more skills. He has the mindset to use the dark magic and cunning and to be deceiving, and I don't know, he's just generally more powerful than Rowena. She's got her intellect, but does intellect beat strength?
Well, I think in a battle, the intelligence and wisdom is more important than actual action. You need sort of the intelligent side of it in order to outwit your opponent, and I think that Rowena would definitely be able to do that on Slytherin. Slytherin, it strikes me as somebody that rushes to judgment, not thinking before he acts, whereas, Rowena would think things through and possibly end up trapping Slytherin in some kind of way. I mean, she designed the moving staircases in Hogwarts. I mean, what has Slytherin ever done? Create some dumpy chamber in the basement of the school?
All right. I'm sorry, Nick. I'm gonna have to give this one to Micah. I feel his argument was stronger.
I concede.
Well, if you guys agree or disagree with us, feel free to write in and let us know why. And maybe we'll read it on the show.
I have a feeling we'll get a lot on the Dumbledore Merlin side of things.
I think we're just going to get people saying, that was an awesome point, Micah. That ended him.
Well, we have quite a few things going on with MuggleNet that we want to tell you about before we wrap up the show. First of all, a ton of giveaways. Last week we had a Hot Topic giveaway that was a lot of fun. We gave away two Hot Topic Deathly Hallows t-shirts. We currently have a pop-up book giveaway going on, as well as which of these? I can't even keep track. We currently have an Ultimate Edition giveaway going on, and we also have the pop-up book one going on. What's going on with the Film Wizardry one?
Okay, so by the time this show is out, it'll probably only be a couple of days away. We're going to be giving away a couple of copies of the Harry Potter Film Wizardry book that we talked about on this show earlier, and I think what we'll do is we'll probably give them away through some creative contest that we come up with on the site, as well as maybe give one copy away on this show, maybe the next episode 212. we'll give away
Excellent.
A copy of that. So look for that coming next week. The Ultimate Edition sweepstakes, that's really cool because the grand prize winner gets a brand new Blu-ray player as well as copies of Prisoner of Azkaban and Goblet of Fire Ultimate Edition. And then there's some runner-up prizes as well. So that started today, which is on Saturday, October 16th, and you have all the way until November the 14th to sign up. So you got a little less than a month to be able to win those prizes. So just a lot of stuff going on.
And the pop-up book, that contest just started just a few days ago. And that one, not only can you win a pop-up book, but you can also win 4 tickets to the Wizarding World of Harry Potter theme park, plus a $1,000 gift card to help you get down there.
Wow.
So these prizes are nothing to sneeze at. They're pretty good. And these prizes, by the way, are being funded right out of Micah's wallet. So very generous.
Yeah, very generous of me. And it's like everything is happening next week. That October 19th, Prisoner of Azkaban and Goblet of Fire, those Ultimate Editions come out in stores. That's when the Film Wizardry book is coming out. No surprise there that they would look.
And the pop-up book.
And the pop-up book. And I think October the 19th is when we will open up that giveaway for the Film Wizardry book. So
actually, I have a correction. The pop-up book comes out November 16th. But whatever. Point is, all this stuff is coming out, and you want to buy it all.
Or win it.
So, yeah, or win it, right. So, best thing to do is just keep an eye on MuggleNet. We have lots of updates going on there. Also, quick update, Micah, regarding the Deathly Hallows split script contest.
Yeah, people entered probably at this point over a month ago, and we've had a little technical trouble getting a poll together, but we finally done that. So hopefully by the time the show is released, we will have the finalists up. A lot of people entered this competition, close to 100 entries. And we thank everybody obviously for entering because we know it takes a lot of work to sit down and write these things out. So look for that, and of course the winners. The top 3 will get a signed copy of MuggleNet.com's Harry Potter Should Have Died, which everybody should have a copy of.
All right. And also content-wise on MuggleNet, we have new recipes, fan arts, fan of the week, and a bunch of other stuff being updated every week. So check those out, as well as two new additions to MuggleNet. For one, the Wizarding World Easter egg section. It points out all the little intricacies of the Wizarding World, all the little hidden things they have throughout the park. So if you're going to go, or if you want to go, check that section out so you're well prepared to know where you can find all the hidden little goodies throughout the park. Also, we have a new editorial added by Lady Lupin. She's a longtime editorialist for MuggleNet. She wrote this great article. It's been getting some amazing feedback from people who have read it about comparing book Harry's growth and the knowledge that film Harry has, and what are the things that the films have left out that have an effect on book Harry's ability to get to the climax of the story. Yeah. It's called Half-Baked Prince, Half-Baked Harry. Definitely check it out.
Yeah.
Mikey, you loved it, I know.
Yeah, no, it was really interesting to read that because it shows you just how much the films have left out, and she really hit all major points.
Somebody said, way to go, MuggleNet. You're going to really upset WB.
No, we've done that a long time ago, so don't worry about that.
And we didn't publish it in, to be like, WB, you suck. It's just an interesting look at, what they have left out. And, the screenwriters should actually give it a read.
Yeah,
they'll feel really crappy about themselves. Okay, so on top of all of that, please visit MuggleCast.com for all the information about the show. You'll be able to subscribe and review us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter and send us in feedback that we actually read on the air, as you've seen. And also like us on Facebook. We're about to cross 20,000 fans on Facebook. We currently... Oh, actually, no. We passed it this week. So, yay. We have 20,000 fans on Facebook. If you haven't become a fan of us on Facebook yet, just go to facebook.com/MuggleCast. And every time we release a new episode, you'll get an update saying, hey, the new one's out. Give it a listen. And you can talk with other fans who are also, listeners, and you can talk about the show right there on
everything
Facebook.
That I said wrong in the show, you can talk about it.
Yeah.
Which is a lot.
We quite frequently got
except Order of Merlin First Class. That's the name of the show. That is episode 211, Order of Merlin, First Class.
I'll call it Order of Micah.
There you go. That's even better. That may top the. Jamie, do you remember? I don't even know what episode this was, but was it the Patronus comment that I made about the otter being related to the weasel?
That rings a bell. Do
you remember that?
Oh, it was something that made us laugh to do with that. Was it to do with someone's Patronus?
Yeah. That Hermione's Patronus was an otter, and that is part of like the weasel family.
Oh yeah, I think I remember you saying that. Yeah, that.
Oh, Jamie like collapsed to the floor.
Yeah. He was like, "Can we have 5 minutes or 5 moments of silence to appreciate that?"
You do come out with some insane points at times, just blown away points. Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening. It's been a very fun show, and we'll see you next time for episode 212. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.